What is up, guys? Marcellus Williams, aka TheSwolefessor, here to educate you on health and fitness and social well-being. Today, guys, we're talking about diminished returns.
I am the greatest.
Someone with power! Someone with power! Someone with cash! Someone with power!
Alright, guys, so this is a topic that I felt like I needed to address simply because so a while back I did a video basically going over how to recognize if you've hit a plateau and then different things you can do to break through said plateau. And I'll actually link that video down below so you guys can check that out as it sort of relates to this video, because one of the things that I mentioned in that video is that a lot of you who think you're plateauing actually aren't hitting a plateau. You're simply experiencing diminished returns, because you see a lot of you seem to have this mindset, unfortunately, and I know where it comes from, and I'll hit on where that comes from, that just the longer you're lifting, the more you're lifting, just the stronger you're going to get, the more muscle mass you're going to get. It's like just endless potential, right? But guys, that's simply not the case. That's not the way it works. The fact is, the longer that you lift consistently and correctly, the harder it is to make gains, the harder it is to make progress. So what I'm going to basically do, guys, is pretty much break down what diminished returns are and how it works. So essentially, diminished returns basically just means that each year that you train consistently, you're going to get about half of the results, sometimes even less than that, give or take, just depending on circumstances, that you got the previous year. So with that being said, guys, that's why the whole thing about beginner gains, the oh man, you got the noob gains. That's why that's such a great thing. That's why it's such a big deal. A lot of beginners don't understand. A lot of beginners, they just worried about like, oh man, my form's wrong, and they just hate the fact that they're having to get used to things. They look at people like us who've been lifting for a while and they just think we haven't made. No, there is no better time to just enjoy your gains than your beginner phases. I wish I would have taken better advantage of mine, just in terms of understanding really just the results you get, because guys, you get so much stronger so quickly. You put on muscle mass so quickly. You don't have to even be in a surplus, like I said, when you're in your beginner game phase, because your body just not used to the stimulus you're providing, so it grows because of that. So the thing is, guys, most people are gonna, assuming they're training correctly, are gonna get the most bang for the buck. They're gonna get the best gains as far as just the rate of growth, how much strength they get, and how much muscle development they get in their first year. And has a wider range, anywhere from your first to 3 years. After that, it's kind of all downhill from there, in the sense of you have to put in so much time, so much work, so much effort just to get not even 1/4 of the results that you got in your first year, when you could really kind of do just whatever you want and still make gains. Now, that's not to say that beginners shouldn't have structure, because yeah, you can do almost anything and make gains, but that's why you should take advantage of that by making sure that you have a proper structured program, that you understand things about nutrition. Do that early on, so that way you can just make the best gains ever in that circumstances. But the thing is, like I said, as a beginner, kind of almost anything you throw your body at, it's gonna work, because it's just that simple. You're not used to any type of stimulus, so your body isn't adapted to it, so it's gonna get those results really quickly. So think of it this way, guys. If you essentially let's say you put on 20 pounds of muscle in your first year or so, right? Then you're probably gonna put on only about half of that in your second year, and so on and so forth. It keeps going down, it keeps dropping down. And the thing is, guys, as I've mentioned before, the most amount of weight you're gonna put on through resistance training alone, as far as muscle mass, is gonna be anywhere from 25 to 30 pounds of muscle mass from resistance training alone. This doesn't mean you're not gonna get muscle mass just from natural growth and puberty, things like that, but from resistance training alone, that's the amount of muscle mass that a natural is gonna be able to put on. So a lot of people get frustrated because they see some of these other dudes, these dudes who seem to keep just getting stronger and stronger at a very fast rate, and they keep getting bigger and bigger. They've clearly passed that threshold of 30 pounds of muscle mass. Well, that's why you have to understand, guys, those guys probably aren't natural. It's as simple as that, and that's why it's so important to not compare yourselves. You shouldn't compare yourself to anybody, but you especially want to be careful when you're comparing yourselves to a lot of these big famous bodybuilders, stuff like that, because the thing is, guys, a lot of those guys aren't natural. You can't expect the same results that they get. And even if you train the same way as them, it doesn't guarantee you the same results, and you're not gonna get the same results. So in terms of diminished return, guys, the best example I can use is this, in terms of strength and then just muscle mass. So when I first started lifting weights when I was 17, beginning of my senior year in high school, I got my bench max from 205 pounds to 300 pounds at the end of the year. So in 1 year, I basically put 100 pounds on my bench max. Since then, guys, the most that I've ever hit on bench, pause, tension, go, whatever, is 355 pounds. So whereas I put 100 pounds on my bench in my first year as far as my max, since then, guys, I've only put on 55 pounds onto my bench. So you guys kind of see how that works. It's like, that's how crazy it is. Like in my first year, I put on 100 pounds on my bench, and then in the next 5 years, only 55 pounds. So I put on about half of that in 5 years compared to what I got in my first year. That's kind of how diminished returns works in terms of strength. You're gonna spend a whole lot more time in the gym, you know, just to get 5-10 pounds on a movement, especially if it's movement you've been doing for a while. It's the same thing with your muscle mass, guys. You can get that first. Honestly, it is very possible to get a good, 20 pounds of your 30 pounds of muscle in your first year if you're trained correctly, if you know what you're doing, and then you just have to gradually build it up from there. But the thing is, after, like I said, it's all downhill. It gets a lot harder, guys. And there's nothing you can really do about that, like assuming that you're natural. It's nothing to get frustrated about, guys. That's why it's so important to just enjoy the process. You have to enjoy the process of lifting, enjoy the process of getting stronger. Every time you get that extra rep, enjoy that. Every time you can add 5 pounds to the bar, enjoy that. It's okay to have goals for a direction, as I've always said, but you have to enjoy the process in order to reach those goals. You have to understand that this isn't a sprint, guys. It's a long, long distance run, meaning that you're not just going to get everything you want instantly. It may seem that way, and that's kind of the misleading thing about it when you take, like, these people who get so happy with their beginner gains, and then they see some of these, pro bodybuilders or powerlifters who may or may not be natural, and they see the results they're getting, and they just think, oh, I'm just going to keep going and going. I'm going to eventually end up like that the next 2 or 3 years. It's not how it works, guys. It's a long game. It takes a long time to get where you want to be. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's pretty much how diminished returns works. It's just the sense that because our body gets more adapted to the stimulus that we are giving it, it's a lot harder to make those changes. You have to make sure that you're training correctly. You have to make sure that you're in a caloric surplus. And you have to make sure that you're training correctly in terms of the amount of volume, frequency, and all that goes into account with your recovery. And that goes more into are you a beginner level lifter, you're an intermediate level lifter, you're an advanced level lifter. And I'll do a video over that later, because there's a lot of misconceptions in terms of what makes you intermediate, advanced, etc. A lot of people think it's based off how much you're lifting to your body weight. That's not the case, but I'll be doing a video over that later this week. I just wanted to briefly address this, guys, because I keep getting messages over people who are saying, hey man, I've been stuck with this weight, for this much time, and I can only barely, add 5 pounds every 3 weeks, every month, so and so, and they think, man, what am I doing to stall? Why am I plateauing? You're not necessarily plateauing, guys, especially those of you who are asking me these questions and you've been lifting just as long as I have, or longer, like for years. You've been lifting consistently for a long time. That's just how it works, guys. Anyway, that is it for this video. I hope that was clear. I hope it was simple. This wasn't so much like getting into the nitty-gritty science of it. I just wanted to explain to you guys how diminished returns works and why you shouldn't be frustrated with your progress. If you're making progress, even if it's gradual, that's always a good thing. If you enjoyed the video, leave a comment down below, let me know that you did. If you didn't enjoy the video, leave a comment down below, let me know what I can do to get better. Like the video, share, subscribe. Keep it simple, specific, scientific. I'll catch y'all later.
I am the greatest.
Someone look color! Someone look color!